This is an incredibly intriguing trade proposal for the Red Sox. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and to all of you in the United States, happy Thanksgiving. I'm incredibly grateful for this community that we built today. Thank you all very much for watching these videos. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down one trade proposal that I think makes a lot of sense for the Red Sox. We're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about whether or not it's a realistic option, what it would take to get him onto this team, to ultimately try and figure out if you guys agree with me or not. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so the player we are talking about in today's video is one of the young stud starters for the Pittsburgh Pirates. No, it's not Paul Skeens, unfortunately, although that would be fantastic. And maybe in a future video, just for fun, we'll take a look at what that could look like. Instead, in today's video, we're going to be talking about Pirates starter Jared Jones. Now, Jared just finished up his first season at the Major League level, and it was pretty solid. It was a 4.14 ERA overall with a tiny bit lower 4.01 FIP and a 1.01 ERA plus, right around that league average production number in 121 2/3 innings. Now, you may be sitting there thinking to yourself, Corbin, why are we making a full video and talking about a smart trade for the Red Sox when this is a guy who was an average pitcher in Major League Baseball last year? That doesn't feel like a smart move. Well, to really understand why this move could be an extremely smart one for the Red Sox, we got to dive a little bit deeper into his statistics, starting with why the ERA is where it's at. For the most part this season, Jared Jones was an incredibly productive pitcher. In fact, in his first 90 innings this year, he had a 5.36 ERA in 16 starts. The second half of the season was where he kind of fell apart a bit. He only threw 30 innings in the second half, and in those 30 innings, his ERA was well above 5, and that was for a couple of different reasons. The first one is that he was coming back from injury. He did have an injury that sidelined him for a pretty decent chunk of the season last year, and coming back from that, his velocity just simply was not what it was in the first half. But the other part of this is that it's kind of normal to see, especially in your rookie season, some regression in the back half of your year. Mostly because, believe it or not, you are playing the top talent in the world when you're pitching in Major League Baseball, and those guys tend to adjust pretty well when you're having success on the mound. So that's also a big part of that too. We do see a lot these rookie pitchers start to break down a little bit as their innings continue to go up. So there is a bit of an explanation for the league average statistics, but when you break it down even further and look at who Jared Jones could be, this is where I think this becomes really enticing for the Red Sox, because outside of just his ERA and everything like that, he was missing a ton of bats at the big league level for his first year in the league, and it was well above average at 26.2% of the batters he faced. He was striking out. He wasn't walking a ton of dudes, keeping it above league average. His fastball is not only really highly ranked velocity-wise, it was also a very valuable pitch in the 72nd percentile in fastball run value, essentially meaning that only 28% of the league had a more valuable fastball this season when it came to preventing runs than Jared Jones. The big issue for Jones this year was that he was giving up a lot of really hard contact on his fastball and just a ton of contact in general on his breaking stuff. His slider looked really good. He was missing a ton of bats with that, his highest whiff rate, and when they were making contact, it wasn't super successful contact, but his curveball, that's a bit of a different story. It was getting hit at a 348 average and an 870 slug. Those are video game numbers hitters were putting up against his curveball, and his changeup was in a similar boat with a 317 average and a 561 slug. If he could figure out how to make those pitches more effective, it becomes easier to fool people with that fastball, because right now, hitters in the box are just simply waiting on that fastball because they know if they get the off-speed stuff, they're going to be able to do damage against it. If he can make those two a more of a weapon like his slider is, well, all of a sudden the fastball becomes more of a weapon. It becomes easier to hide. It becomes a pitch that hitters need to respect, but also they need to respect his other pitches. And of course, if you're spinning more stuff, you're going to get weaker contact. And to me, what's a better fit for improving your breaking ball stuff than the Boston Red Sox, right? You got Kyle Bodie, the founder of Driveline, in your system right now. Andrew Bailey famously is really really good at playing off of pitchers' off-speed stuff. Greg Breslow, Justin Willard, right? They're revamping their entire system right now. I firmly believe they can get Jared Jones off-speed stuff more towards league average, and all of a sudden, that fastball becomes one of the more deadly fastballs in the entire sport. There's a ton of potential here with Jared Jones, is what I'm saying at the end of the day, and it gets even better because on top of all of the potential, he's only 22 years old, meaning if the Red Sox are looking for a young, controllable starter, he fits that mold pretty perfectly. I mean, he's even younger than Quinn Priester, who the Red Sox picked up last year. And speaking of control, he would also be under control with the Red Sox until the 2030 season. That is 5 full years of control with Jared Jones. That's a whole lot of time to grow and develop in the Red Sox rotation and become a potential frontline starting pitcher. And that's really why I like this idea of trading for Jared Jones. I think if you look at what the Red Sox are sort of missing here in their rotation, it's swing and miss stuff. It's a true controllable young potential ace, and Jared Jones ticks off both of those boxes. So to me, it really does feel like a smart target for the Red Sox, but there's a lot more that goes into trade targets than just how well they fit on the Sox, right? We have to talk about whether or not this is even a realistic target for the Sox to go after, and if it is, what would it take to get him here, and are you willing to do that? Starting on the realism side of this thing, I actually don't think this is out of the realm of possibility for the Red Sox, and it's for one specific reason. It's because the Pirates might actually be in a position where this makes sense for them as well. Taking a look at the Pirates, they were not a very successful team last year, but going forward, they're really building themselves out one heck of a rotation. Just looking at the major league level, obviously, Paul Skeens is the face of that, but on top of that, you also have Mitch Keller, Jared Jones, and Luis Ortiz at the big league level behind him. That's a pretty solid rotation. And then you take a look at what their pipeline looks like over the next year or so, and you get guys like Bubba Chandler, who's one of the top pitching prospects in the sport, Braxton Ashcroft, and Thomas Harrington, who are all basically one step away from Major League Baseball, and they're all top 100 prospects in the game right now. Pitching is an area of depth for them. Where they really lack is on the offensive side of things. Looking at their 2024 season, they were bottom 10 in the league in average, bottom 5 in the league in on-base percentage, bottom 5 in the league in slugging, and overall, obviously, bottom 5 in the league in OPS as well. We know that the Pirates probably aren't a team that is going to go out and spend to fix that problem. So one of the solutions here, if they do want to get a little bit better and not waste Paul Skeens' years in a Pirates uniform, is to go out and trade some of this pitching depth that they've developed over the last couple of years to get some more offensive production. And when you're looking at it, that might be a perfect fit for the Boston Red Sox, because the Red Sox are in the exact opposite boat, right? They were top 10 in every single offensive category, and while their rotation was one of the better rotations in baseball last year, their pitching in general was towards the bottom of the league. It feels like this is sort of a match made in heaven, and that's why, to me, this feels like it is a legitimate target the Red Sox could look at. Now, in terms of actual realism, I don't know in what order the Pirates are going to be looking to trade some of these guys. If they are looking to trade some of their rotational pieces, I would have to imagine Mitch Keller, who's on the verge of hitting free agency, is probably at the top of that list. I don't know from there where Jared Jones falls, but I have to imagine he's above Paul Skeens and probably above Luis Ortiz and Bubba Chandler. But if the Pirates are willing to take a look at this and actually make an attempt to get a trade done, what would that trade look like? Well, obviously, it's going to take some significant pieces, right? It's not going to be easy to pry Jared Jones from the Pittsburgh Pirates, but it's also not impossible for the Red Sox either. I actually think a package that looks something like this, with the Red Sox sending over Wilyer Abreu, Chase Meidroth, and Wickelman Gonzalez, actually does make some sense for both sides. Again, we talk about what are the weaknesses with the Pirates. Well, one of them is just simply their inability to get on base. What would be a better fit for the Pirates than a guy in Chase Meidroth, who was one of the better players in minor league baseball in general last season at getting on base, who was consistently, pretty much throughout his career outside of 2023, walked more than he struck out, and who consistently at every level in minor league baseball has also been a guy who hits above average. This feels like a perfect fit for the Pirates. He's also a guy that is very close, if not ready, for Major League Baseball. But obviously, the headline of this deal would be Wilyer Abreu. And while giving up Wilyer Abreu does suck for the Red Sox, we know that they need to trade from their surplus of left-handed bats, and Wilyer Abreu makes a lot of sense in that category. And for the Pirates, it's a young, cost-controlled player who has a ton of potential, who's great on the field, and who would immediately improve both their slugging and OPS potential. To me, this actually does make a lot of sense for both sides, and that's why I sit here and I say, well, wait a second, this could be a perfect match for the Red Sox. This could be a really smart deal for this Red Sox team, because at the end of the day, what you would be giving up are trades from both your areas of depth, middle infielders and outfielders. And again, yes, it sucks to get rid of some of these guys, but you got to give something to get something. I threw Wickham and Gonzalez in there just simply as sort of a, hey, we're going to put the cherry on top of this deal. This is a guy who really wasn't successful last year, but does still have a ton of potential. Maybe because you've built out this pipeline of pitching, you can utilize this guy as a bullpen arm, or maybe try and retool him to be a successful starting pitcher. I sit here and I don't really understand why this wouldn't work for both sides. I think what it ultimately is going to come down to here for the Pirates specifically is how highly they value Jared Jones. Is this someone they are willing to move for maybe not a top 100 prospect, but for some legitimate major league talent to improve their team now and for the next few years? Or is he somebody that they're looking at saying, look, the only way we're getting rid of this guy is if you throw in a top 100 dude, and we're looking at Braden Montgomery and higher, right? We're looking at Big Four plus Montgomery possibly. And at that point, I don't know if it's worth it. But if the Red Sox, who have been closely linked to Garrett Crochet, are on the market hunting for that young, controllable starter who could potentially be at the front of this rotation, I think Jared Jones fits that mold pretty perfectly, especially when you break down past his ERA and FIP. Now, I will say I don't think this should be the big move the Red Sox make this offseason for their rotation. If they were going to bring in Jared Jones, I think they'd also need to go out and bring in a Burns or a Fried, which I do think is something the Red Sox are going to try and do regardless of who else they get for this rotation, but just simply because he's so young, simply because he's so inexperienced, to hang your hat on this guy really transforming the front end of your rotation feels like a bit too heavy of a risk going into a season where you're looking to compete pretty immediately. So I will say this wouldn't be a preliminary move, but a supplementary move of bringing in Jared Jones to me just makes all the sense in the world. And again, the packages kind of line up perfectly with the biggest issues for both sides. And to me, that's why I labeled this one a smart trade for the Red Sox. But that's just my opinion. So let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this? What do you think about the possibility of going and targeting a Jared Jones? Do you like this target? Do you not like this target? And ultimately, if you were the GM of the Red Sox, what would you do? Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, if you want to listen instead of watch these episodes, all you got to do is head over to your favorite podcasting app and look up Red Seat Radio. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you that are celebrating. I hope everything goes well today, and I will see you in the red seats.